All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling a seriously provocative question. Is pro-Palestinianism actually becoming the fourth Abrahamic religion? We're going to unpack a deeply fascinating essay by demographer Daniel Staetsky. He lays out this striking theory that pro-Palestinianism isn't just a geopolitical stance anymore. Nope. He argues it's evolved into a brand new civil religion in the West. Now, regardless of where you stand politically, looking at this through the lens of political sociology and demography gives us a wildly unique way to view our current cultural moment. So we're going to step back, look at the data objectively, and follow his argument step by step to see exactly how he reached this massive conclusion.
Think of today as a sociological detective story. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the puzzling political alliances forming today, then the decline of Christianity, the youth demographic shift, defining what a civil religion actually is, and finally, the new social lubricant.
Section 1. The Puzzling Political Alliances. Staetsky starts his investigation by looking around the streets and campuses of Western Europe. And he asks this absolutely critical question. How do seemingly incompatible lifestyles end up under the exact same political banner? I mean, he points out that the sheer intensity and the disproportionate focus on recent Middle Eastern conflicts just can't be explained by foreign policy alone. It's too big, it's too visceral.
He lays out 4 major societal puzzles. First, the unprecedented speed and intensity of the protests. They just erupted. Second, the sheer centrality of this conflict in Western politics. You have local politicians resigning over a distant war. Third, a willingness to ignore unpalatable realities to maintain a narrative. And fourth, the bridging of totally unbridgeable social groups. Staetsky argues this level of intense mobilization means the West isn't just reacting to a foreign conflict, it's desperately trying to solve an internal problem.
And this right here is a masterclass in unlikely alliances. Staetsky looks at the alliance between Western LGBT activists and traditional Islamists. On paper, the cultural values of these two groups are completely at odds. It seems almost absurd, right? But then you see groups like Queers for Palestine marching right alongside highly traditional religious groups. Why? Well, Staetsky argues it isn't an oversight, it's an instinctive survival mechanism. He suggests the LGBT community, wanting to secure their place in a changing Europe, is adopting a shared cause to build rapport and signal alignment with newly arrived traditional immigrant populations.
Okay, let's look at the next clue. Section 2. The Decline of Christianity.
8%. Just let that sink in for a second. According to Pew Research data cited in the essay, only 8% of the UK population are weekly church attenders today. That is a stark, almost staggering statistic. The author points out that this leaves a massive void in modern society. A society that was historically anchored by a single unifying faith is now, well, essentially flying blind. To explain this, Staetsky brings in demographer Emmanuel Todd. Todd describes the West's trajectory as moving from active religiosity to what he calls zombie religiosity, where we just kind of go through the motions for weddings and baptisms, all the way down to zero religion. Basically, Western societies have systematically lost their original unifying belief system.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Zero religion equals zero social glue. Religion didn't just tell people about the afterlife. It told groups who they were, where they came from, and what they lived for. It literally was the societal glue. And the author deduces that when you lose that shared framework, society begins to fracture. It desperately needs a replacement.
Moving on to the hard data. Section 3. The youth demographic shift.
Right at the exact moment Christianity faded out, demographics shifted massively. If you look at the total population of England and Wales, the Muslim population sits around 6 to 7%. But national averages can be incredibly deceiving. When you look at the under 15 demographic, that number jumps to over 10% because of differing fertility rates. So the future looks very different from the present average.
Now, what's really fascinating is the local concentration. Zoom in on major urban centers and the numbers shift dramatically. In Greater London and Manchester, the under 15 Muslim population is between 20 and 25%. In Birmingham, it's close to 45%. Staetsky points out that these major cities represent the undeniable new reality of Europe. It is no longer homogeneously post-Christian. It's highly diverse, with a fast-growing population from outside Europe.
Which brings us to Section 4, Defining a Civil Religion. So we have a society that lost its old religion, and it's welcoming a massive new demographic. How do you bond these completely disparate groups together? You need a civil religion.
This is a well-established sociological concept. It's the implicit religious values of a nation, expressed through public rituals and symbols that unite a society and give it purpose. Think about how a nation treats its flag, its monuments, or its national anthem. Societies absolutely require this shared framework to survive.
The author argues that a deeply fractured society requires a unifying worldview that appeals to both the European old-timers and the newcomers. Pure nihilism or tired old left and right ideologies, they don't work anymore. They just divide people. The West has this urgent need for an out-of-the-box organic replacement that everyone can get behind.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. Section 5, the new social lubricant.
Here is exactly how Staetsky says this works. Step 1. Society adopts a shared, easily accessible geopolitical cause. Step 2. Secular Westerners use this cause to signal alignment and friendship to newly arrived traditional populations. Step 3. This shared cause acts as a social lubricant to cure the rift between utterly incompatible groups. A secular LGBT activist and a traditional Muslim might disagree on literally everything about domestic life, but if they both wave the exact same flag for a distant geopolitical cause, they instantly have a bridge.
And this leads us to Staetsky's ultimate, provocative conclusion. Pro-Palestinianism is no longer just a foreign policy stance. It has effectively been transformed into the fourth Abrahamic religion. It is the West's new unifying creed, stepping in to replace Christianity and traditional nationalism.
Why does this specific cause fit the job description perfectly? Because it checks every single box. It's accessible to absolutely everyone. Atheists, Muslims, Christians, left, right. It provides a highly coherent, binary worldview of clear-cut right and wrong. It offers an immediate sense of moral belonging. It gives an anxious, fractured Europe that desperately needed sense of kumbaya. According to the author, it is the ultimate societal glue for the 21st century West.
So, we'll wrap up this explainer with the author's final thought. If a society is outsourcing its unity, its moral compass, and its core identity to a distant conflict in the Middle East, how sustainable is that? For how long will the West rely on a foreign geopolitical issue to act as its societal glue rather than doing the hard work of creating its own homegrown ideas? It's a deeply fascinating question about the future identity of Western society, and it definitely leaves us with a lot to ponder. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and keep questioning the world around you.